Hello, listeners. I'm Timstradamus. Welcome back to another Wednesday. Joining me as always is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome to all of our listeners. Well, I think I've got a pretty clever joke for you. What do you call a fish without an eye?
I'm gonna say, a pirate fish.
Well, it's actually fish. Get it? Because you take out the eye.
Oh, that's gotta be one of the worst jokes I've ever heard. For new listeners, Voyse and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for that.
So, Voyse,
Timstradamus.
we do not have any tea today.
No, because you have to drink more water. It's been too hot. It's Hydration Hump Wednesday. And we're just reminding all of our listeners, please stay hydrated. It's very, very hot out there.
Yes, it's actually continuing to get hotter.
Absolutely crazy, this weather.
Be safe.
Well, while you go ahead and enjoy your
This guy.
water, why don't we go ahead and delve into these stories? For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. For our first story, am I the a-hole for banning my sister from family parties because of her attitude towards kids? I, 41 male, am the oldest of 5. My sister, Vera, 31 female, is the third child. Our parents are long dead. Now, my sister was always the quiet one. She never interacted with us much as a child. Instead, she spent most time in her room reading. She barely spoke, and when she did, she had different conversation topics. She was gifted, I get it, but we were kids and got bored when she talked, so we just didn't get along. Fast forward, Vera now works optimizing administrative processes for big companies. She's very authoritative, strategic, and overconfident. Even her boyfriend would not take a business or financial decision without consulting her first, because he's convinced she's the holy grail of management. I get it. She's good at what she does, has a big salary, and has good connections, but she's just a bit much. One point here is that Vera is the only sibling who has no kids, and apparently her boyfriend got a vasectomy a few months ago. Good for him. Thing is, when we gather at our childhood home, all my siblings bring along their kids. Kids are kids. They are loud and like to play. They are sensitive too. Vera doesn't seem to understand this. She greets the kids from a distance, never hugs them, and if one of them comes to her, she will keep them at arm's length. Will be polite, but way too serious, and somehow cold with them. Neither my siblings nor me like this, or the way she will refuse to do uppies with the toddlers, or just refuse to play along with the older kids who want to make questions, or just talk like kids do, let alone will watch the kids even for 15 minutes, would not ask more from her. Anyway, her behavior got worse after the last family gathering. She brought along her laptop because she had some work to do, and one of the kids dropped it accidentally, damaging the screen. She went totally ballistic and demanded my youngest sister, who is a single mom living on welfare at the moment, paid the repair. After some reasoning, she dropped the subject, but then she proceeded to stay even further away from the kids. Hence, I spoke to my siblings and concluded it was best if we didn't invite her over for the next gathering. That was this weekend. I knew she would see the photos on Instagram, but I so hoped she would see how her attitude had isolated her and would learn a lesson. Boy, I was wrong. She sent me a short, dead cold message asking why she wasn't invited. I told her the reason and told her we expected her to behave like a member of the family if she wanted to be treated like family. She responded, okay, and proceeded to block us everywhere. Not only her boyfriend did too. Apparently, she also blocked other members of our family who proceeded to send angry audios and messages to me and my siblings about it. Am I the a-hole? Just wanted to keep the kids on a friendly environment and expected her to be an adult.
All right. Well, I guess we'll get kicked off into Wednesday with entitlement issues because that's what screams in this story, at least to me anyway. OP has a little bit of an age gap between him and the sister in the story. He's 41, 42?
41.
And she's 30.
31. So a 10-year gap.
At, I guess, 10 years of age, ROP had made an assessment on his sister that she was boring when he was in his 20s. everything he said about his sister in this story has made it feel like he has always felt inferior to her. I don't know why you have that complex. Maybe you feel that way through the treatment of your parents to her. In your eyes, maybe you weren't treated the same way. But that's what it screams to me, as you've always felt inadequate measured up to her. You've always compared. She has a nice job. She's not having children. He says this, good for you. But I don't really know if that even comes off the way he thinks it does. Because to me, that's him kind of like a sly little backhand.
You mean, I get it. She's good at what she does, has a big salary, has good connections, but she's just a bit much?
That bit much thing. I love when people pepper that into a description of someone. Normally that's them being dismissive of that person entirely. What makes her a bit much? Because she's successful? In your eyes, that's a bit much. She's allowed to be at family gatherings and not be your babysitter. She's allowed to not want to pick up the babies. I think he says that she doesn't partake in uppies. No one owes your kids or babies interactions like that. If she's not comfortable with that, that should have been respected. You guys are the problem. They're not understanding her boundaries. Regardless, I guess, of how it happened, she's allowed to be upset that her property was damaged. Now, given the fact that, yes, the kid that did it, their mother is on, I guess they said welfare, and
Correct.
She's single.
Let me interject here for just a moment and read to you a comment from the OP in regards to laptops. They said, no laptops should be carried around kids. That's my whole point. Kids are kids. We wanted her to just not come. Since she did say she had to finish up some work, I don't think it was that important anyway. But since it was another sibling's birthday, she insisted on being there anyway. Her fault. We don't expect her to be the doting aunt. Just would like it if she understood kids are kids instead of pretending they are all boring like she was as a kid.
Oh man, you're a really bad older brother.
Let me read another comment from our OP. They said the fact that she decided to isolate herself during childhood gives her zero right to act all cold towards kids. Kids like hugs, toddlers like uppies. They do not understand why someone would be as cold and stone-hearted to refuse to do either thing. See, I think for me, what really has me rankled here is, first, it sounds like OP's sister just wanted to be around for her sibling's birthday.
That should have been the stop and the end of it. If she did have work and she still wanted to show up to a birthday party, that should have meant to you, OP, that it was important to her.
She cares.
Yes.
And if your kids break something that doesn't belong to them and to you, they should try and make it right by repairing it. Even if it's a fraction, even if they gave money that's a fraction of the cost or slowly paid back the sister, at least it would show accountability to those children.
But to go beyond that and go, well, you shouldn't have brought it. Kids are kids. No, your parenting is important and it shows there's a lack of. And the only way you're able to push past that is by saying, oh, it's a her problem because she's always been a weird kid. That's what I heard from all of this. A weird overachieving adult that doesn't like kids because she was weird when she was a child. Everything about this screams petty, and the fact that everyone allowed you as the eldest to... Because this is the thing. He says that the parents are no longer in the picture anymore. They both have passed on.
It doesn't feel like he has much love for his parents, though.
The way he kind of out of left field says that statement.
Long dead.
Yeah. But knowing that the parents are no longer around, he as the eldest would normally be the one facilitating and kind of not governing or controlling people, but normally you facilitate family time and getting people together. And he's more concerned about exiling someone he thinks is better than him. And the worst part is the entire family, the ones that are present with their kids, are more than happy to go along with what he said. We're not going to invite her. I didn't hear anywhere where maybe one or two of the siblings said, hey, maybe let her be herself. Maybe we don't have to force her to have the same values and actions towards the kids. I didn't hear where she was being mean. I heard where she said she wasn't comfortable with picking your kids up or being the babysitter because you then shamed her and went, well, we would never ask her for more than 15 minutes to watch the kids. Is that her responsibility to be your babysitter?
Not even a little.
Maybe the reason why she's been so distant the way you perceive her to be is because you guys have been demanding her be that way towards the kids. Maybe you have been trying to use her as far as being a babysitter because she doesn't have kids. I don't know their dynamic, but based off the way his attitude comes across here, he feels owed. OP, you're a wiener jacket. You're definitely the a-hole here.
The consensus on Reddit is our OP is the a-hole. And there were a lot of Redditors that got up in arms here. The fact that there's such a huge age gap, that you're right, Timstradamus, if she was 10 and reading books and our OP is 20, the fact that he would label her as boring, because apparently there's nothing that him as an adult can find interesting about her. She's just gifted. It comes across as just jealousy.
Yes.
All of his post comes across that way. And he's utilizing kids and how it sounds like she may be a little awkward around children. She's not very warm, and that's fine. There are a lot of adults out there that enjoy being around family and being around kids, but they don't want to interact. They just want to be around.
Yes, because they love them just in their own way.
The fact that OP would utilize that almost possible awkwardness and then blame it on their childhood. Our OP is a bad person. And the fact that he has siblings that apparently would go along with what he said without even trying to push back and say, hey, look, this is our sister. She actually cared enough to want to spend time with me on my birthday. And I think that's great. The fact that nobody stood up to actually say anything shows that they're all probably the same piece of shit people.
Well, I'm not going to go there. It might show that, but it also might just show his influence on everyone and their being afraid that he would do the same thing to them.
Possibly. I still like mine, though.
Hopefully, though, the OP can learn from this. You said they let him have it, so hopefully he's got the perspective and can fix what he's doing.
It felt like in the comment section that he was trying to refute and push his prerogative forward.
Okay, so he's the person that can't be wrong.
And it's one of the reasons why I read some of the comments that he put down. Well, let's go on to our next story and see what you think about reporting a coworker. Am I the butt for reporting my coworker over a book I received from her? To start off, I'm female 30s, afraid I can't remember what the book is called. I dropped it in a book donation box on the same day I received it. This involves my coworker. I'll call her Kim, female 20s. She's what I describe as very miserable. She's not the most easiest person to talk to. Her main responses to conversations is usually, so what? I can only think of 3 people here that she's comfortable with. We work at a vet clinic with around 40 people working here. She's admitted before that she's working here because we provide the best health insurance and pay. Honestly, I think she should be fired if she wasn't such a diligent and reliable worker, which she is. While she doesn't like to share her life or make small talk with anyone, when she does talk, it's to provide important work-related info, and she's very precise about it. I'm kind of stuck working with her most of the time. I'm a surgical tech assistant, and so is Kim. She's also the janitor here. We mostly help with sterilizing tools and clean and setting up between each surgeries. A lot of us gave up trying to get close with her, but I still try to be friendly. The issue started a couple months ago when another coworker, Janet, female 50s, gave her a book for her birthday. Kim didn't know who gave it to her. She just found it in her bag. Janet showed me the link to me and other coworkers about the book she wanted to give to Kim, thinking it'll help her attitude. It's called The Happiness Advantage: How a Positive Brain Fuels Success in Work and Life by Sean Aker. Kim asked me if I gave it to her, and when I told her no, she then asked me did I know who did, and I also said no. I then told her to give the book a chance because I think it might help her. My birthday was a week ago, and Kim gave me a book. When I asked her what it was about, she told me maybe that'll help you not be so judgmental towards men. While you're at it, maybe pass it along to Dr. Roberts, male 50s. We work in a mostly female place. The thought that she would give me a book like that, it sounded like it was written by an incel, made me think maybe she doesn't like the majority of us because I guess she's a pick-me or not like other girls or whatever you want to call those women-hating women. So I reported her. However, she received no punishment. I guess they found the book wasn't anti-feminist, which honestly, they could be wrong. There are stories out there where women report harassment, but HR does nothing to help. So maybe I was right about the contents of the book. Or maybe I was wrong for reporting her. I don't know. Did I overreact? Edit. Like I said, I can't remember the title or the author of the book, but maybe people will recognize it if I describe the cover. It's a cutout of a Sistine Chapel painting of the creation of Adam surrounded by a blue or black or green background. Add that with Kim's description of maybe that'll help you not be so judgmental towards men. Edit 2. I was hoping to avoid this. I texted Kim about 2 hours ago and asked her what was the book called. I guess I don't really know if I was right or wrong to report the book unless I truly know what it's about. When she didn't answer for about an hour and a half, I decided to apologize about reporting her and told her I have been considering of reading the book and that I too might need improvement. She finally replied back and all she said was, "The Book to Change by Bell Hooks." So does anyone know this book? And am I the a-hole?
So I guess I'll approach this story like this. ROP says that there was a book given to a coworker of hers.
Correct.
So Janet gives this book to Kim. ROP is asked a question by Kim if she was the gift giver. But she tells Kim no, and but maybe you should read that book. Now, I'm certain to Kim this might have looked like, even if she didn't believe that OP was not the gift giver, by saying it like that, you could see where it might lead Kim to believe maybe our OP did give her the book. Or even if that's not what she believed, at least OP is confirming that Kim needs to read this because this pertains to her. I could see where you might get a little hurt by that. Now, Kim, in turn, finds a book that she thinks fits ROP. Fair enough. If you have that piece of advice to give to someone that they should read this book that you may or may not have given her, by her giving you a book and saying, hey, maybe this gives you some good perspective, why cannot then you understand that what she is asking of you is what you asked of her? Are we not capable of taking what we give? Because if you can't, that makes you a hypocrite.
Not when you live in a glass house.
It sounds like she does live in one. Regardless of what's inside of those books, that's what this story comes down to for me. You're asking people to do something you're not willing to. You're being judgmental, even though you're accusing other people of being judgmental. Don't throw stones. OP, you're a gigantic a-hole. There are a lot of things in this story that we could get in depth about as far as the book. I'm not super familiar. I am familiar with the author, but as far as the content within that book, I'm not familiar. But based off of the author, I can surmise.
If anything, I can go ahead and provide a summarization of that book. So, In a Will to Change by Bell Hooks. Bell Hooks is a pioneering feminist author. And this book actually explores how men are harmful and how men are being harmed. And it brings forward that many men are emotionally stifled by toxic patriarchy. And how it is that that role is not just played forward by men doing it to other men, but by also women playing into that role as well. It's fairly, I can't imagine as a woman being told that I'm not allowed to feel or do certain things because it's not my role to do so.
It happens both ways, and I think maybe everyone understanding that everyone's getting a piece of it is important. Regardless of, again, I don't know in depth about the content of that book, so I can't say if I agree with the messaging or not, but these are the facts. At a certain point, if you're asking someone to do something that you're not willing to do, you're wrong.
That's very true.
You're an a-hole, OP.
I also agree. And so does all of Reddit, because Reddit's consensus was you're the a-hole. A lot of them came forward and said in any job setting, no one, either man or woman, owes anyone else anything but professionalism and respect. Being friendly and personable would be nice, but it's not required. And the fact that OP, while they might not have been the person to provide the book, essentially says, hey, this book on how you're acting towards us, you really should read it because you have to change. That's extremely rude. And the fact that our OP couldn't take that same judgment back, it just goes ahead and shows what kind of person they are. Let me go ahead and read their last edit that kind of, I think, stamps that all in. In OP's last edit, they said, make all your assumptions all you want. I got my judgment, and I agree with it. I was wrong. If the maintenance man I mentioned here tells me he hates our jokes, I will stop. But so far, he hasn't said anything and seems to enjoy our talk, so... As for those who feel sorry for poor Dr. Roberts, our boss, well, he also likes to make jokes about his spouse. My wife didn't wash the tie I wanted to wear today. All I had to eat was leftovers last night because my wife was too tired to cook me a warm meal. Kim doesn't even like him, and it's all because of surgical caps. no, these are obviously female caps, so you need to put it in the drawer labeled bouffants, even though it's a tied cap and it's in the drawer labeled tied, but you should know bouffants obviously mean female caps. But even then, Dr. Roberts is fun to talk to and enjoy our jabs at him, the big baby. For me, how OP talks, there's something to be said regardless of whether you're a man or a woman, if you're making jokes at the expense of another because of the sex that they are. It's very insulting. I would not like to be made fun of because I'm a woman. The same way as I don't turn around and I make fun of someone else who's a man because he's a man. The fact that our OP can't understand that there are a lot of things that can be perceived as insulting or offensive, and they don't want to take that feedback, but then they get offended and insulted when they're provided some form of critical thinking content, I think is very interesting. If anything, there are places to have jokes and there are people that you can do it with comfortably, but there is always a time and a place. And I think for me, the jokes really need to stop and be thoroughly thought through when you're talking about a professional setting.
Well, they're treating it like it's high school.
Oh, yes.
She's
thank you.
Offended with Kim because she's professional, that she's good at her job. Why are you offended that she doesn't want to carry on a personal relationship with you? She probably doesn't want to because she sees how you operate around the office. The way that person talks about other people in front of you is the way they talk about you behind your back.
So true.
You are no better than the company you keep, and it sounds like Kim doesn't want to keep you as company, but she's willing to treat you as an equal professionally. And that's all you can ask.
Well, I do wish our OP the best because Reddit definitely gave their perspective on this one.
Definitely.
Well, let's go on to our next story and see what you think about a sister that's being treated special because of her disability. Am I the a-hole for what I said? My family won't let me share any good news because of my sister's disability. I, 26 female, have an older sister, 32 female, who had a tragic accident 3 years ago that left her paralyzed from the waist down. It's been rough for everyone, but especially for her, of course. Our family rallied around her, helping out as much as we can, and I've been there every step of the way because I love her so much. But since the accident, it feels like I don't deserve to have any good things happen to me, or at least I'm not allowed to talk about them. Every time something positive happens in my life, I get shut down by my family. When I got a promotion at work last year, I was so happy and excited to tell them. I thought my family would be happy for me, but when I tried to share the news, my mom pulled me aside and told me to not now because my sister had a tough day. I ended up keeping it to myself. 8 months ago, my boyfriend proposed. When I told them, my mom immediately changed the subject later, telling me that my sister was feeling down about her own marriage struggles. It's like anything good in my life is an offense to my sister's situation. This happened a few days ago. I've been saving up for years to buy my first new car. I finally managed to do it, and I was so excited. I thought my family would be happy for me, so I decided to tell them. As soon as the words were out of my mouth, the room went dead silent. My mom whispered to me, "This isn't the time. Think about your sister." My sister looked so sad, and I instantly felt like the worst person in the world. I just couldn't handle it anymore, and I said, "Can't I share anything good in my life? I thought you'd all be happy for me." No one knew what to say, and I left the house. I've never done that before. Now I'm filled with regret and confusion. I love my sister, and I never want to hurt her, but it feels like I'm not allowed to have anything good happen to me. It's getting to the point where I feel like I'm walking on eggshells all the time. I understand my sister's life has changed drastically, and I'm genuinely supportive and have always been there for her. But sometimes I just want to be able to share my own life too. I feel so guilty for even feeling this way, like I'm being selfish or inconsiderate. Her husband and even my parents share things about their lives freely, and no one seems to mind. But as the younger sister, I'm not allowed to share anything good in front of her, so I don't hurt her feelings. I get it. I really do. I understand she's going through a lot, and I don't want to add to her pain, but it feels like I'm not allowed to have any joy in my life around my family. Now I know I owe my sister an apology for how I reacted. I never want to make her feel sad, but I'm struggling with how to approach my family. I don't feel like I should apologize to them. And honestly, I don't think I'll be sharing anything with them in the future. Am I the a-hole?
What a very sad story you have found. You should never feel ashamed of telling your family good news in your life. My question here is, and I hope maybe they've elaborated on this, is she the one that's overreacting and making everything about herself when she hears other people have good news in their life? Or is it the mother and family saying, oh, if she hears this, she'll break?
So based on our OP's comments, because this question was asked by them as well, it sounds like it is the mother that always jumps in. And let me go ahead and just read this one comment from our OP. Our OP says, my sister never says anything. It's always my mom who jumps in to tell me off, followed by reasons why. My sister did look sad when I told them about my new car, but she didn't say anything. Whenever I tried to discuss things with my sister, my parents tell me to not, saying it might complicate things, and I might end up hurting her feelings even more. Another question that was asked was, has there always been this kind of dynamic between you and your sister to a lesser extent before this? OP said, she's always been the confident one, saying whatever she wants whenever she feels like it. I've had to work on myself over the years to start expressing myself better, but things have gotten worse since the accident. Now I can't say anything.
That does give us a snapshot of what this relationship looks like currently. If the parents are going, specifically the mother, I believe, is going out of her way to stop or stunt news from coming out, and the sister has a sad reaction to it. I understand your sister went through and is going through a tough time, but there are healthier ways to manage that than acting as if good news in someone's life is going to hurt you. If someone else's good news makes you upset, that's a you problem. You need to go get help. Those things will only manifest into darker and worse things later. Yeah, I'm sorry for the accident your sister got into, but that doesn't mean you have to live your life on eggshells. You're not being rude about it. I don't see negativity. You're just celebrating milestones. You should never feel bad for celebrating milestones. And if someone is making you feel that way in your life, they're the wrong person to have in your life. I see no problem in the way you reacted. You do not owe them an apology for what went on at that dinner table. I'm sorry that that situation is your family life right now. I hope for your sister and your family, though, they go get themselves into counseling right away. Because if you're making people feel bad for their good news, that really shows me a lot about where your mental health is at. I feel bad for our OP. Find people that you can enjoy and share milestones with. If those are the people that cannot, and they make you feel like you're a burden, because that's what this essentially comes down to. She feels like her news is a burden to the family. How dare you make good news a burden? By the way, OP, congratulations on your first new car.
Congratulations.
That is a wild achievement, because there's the first car you get, which normally is not the best thing. It's a clunker.
Junk,
it's
whatever
A to B. You get out of college. It is what it is.
But this is the first one that she was able to buy fully herself.
You worked for it. You scraped by. You saved for it. It's now yours. That's an accomplishment, especially now because cars are ridiculously overpriced. But regardless, good on you. But that should be coming from your family, not strangers on the internet. That's the worst part here, is you want to reach out and give them a hug, because it frustrates me when people can't just be. I don't mind if you can't be happy for someone else, but don't sit there and make it about you to the point where people are telling you to shush. I can't get behind that. Your family is, I'm sorry they're going through the tough time they are. They need to go get outside help. That's what this sounds like to me. And I hope they can. And through that help, one day they can give you the apology that you deserve. But in this case, OP, you're not the a-hole, and you do not owe them an apology. You're being open and honest.
The consensus on Reddit is our OP's not the a-hole. There were many Redditors that came forward saying, it sounds like you need to have a heart-to-heart talk with your sister without your parents being around, because you need to find out if your sister harbors these feelings, if it's something that the mother is trying to coddle your sister with, because that's not healthy for anyone either. Yeah, your sister's going through a tough time and they need support, but there's a difference between trying to support someone and essentially trying to enable them in a situation where they need to have that confidence in themselves. It's going to be tough. There's no such thing as having it easy. At least for a lot of people, there's no such thing as having it easy. But you can learn to be strong and get that confidence back. If anything, there were a lot of Redditors that also came forward saying, while you do need to have this heart-to-heart with your sister, it sounds like you also need to keep working on yourself. If you weren't a very confident person and you were more timid based on how it is that our OP wrote about themselves, keep working on yourself. Don't allow other people to bring you down, that your accomplishments are worth it. And you are right, Timstradamus. These should be words that come from your family and not from internet strangers. But if it does provide you some form of comfort, your accomplishments are amazing. Keep working on yourself. Keep growing. Don't allow other people to bring you down, regardless of whether they're your blood-related family or not. Well, let's go on to our next story. And this one's very interesting. I actually found this through an Oh No Consequences, but it's actually an AITA post. All links will be in the description, of course. For our next story, am I the a-hole for filing for divorce because my husband over-tightens all the jar lids? His over-tightening jar lids has been an issue since he was just visiting at my house when we were dating. First, it started with just things he used, and then over time, it became every damn glass jar with a metal lid. He'd tighten them so much I couldn't open them without assistance. It wasn't a huge deal if he was there, but if I was alone, it was so annoying. More times than I can count, I've opened a new jar of something because I couldn't get the jar open. It's been a reoccurring cycle over the past 5 years. It's just a thing that would escalate until I had a major meltdown and freaked out, screaming, frustrated, and seemingly crazy because it's just a lid. Then it would get better for a while. Then it would slowly become an issue again, just getting worse and worse until I reach a breaking point again. Sometimes I literally feel insane for being so upset over jar lids. He initially claimed that he did it to keep food fresh. After many arguments about it and my insistence that I don't believe it keeps anything fresh, and even if it does make things last longer, I don't care if it means I can't eat my freaking food when I want. I'll just replace things that go bad because they are closed normally. Then the excuse was that it's a habit. So about a month ago, my husband had a family emergency and had to travel out of state for 10 days. First day he's gone, I discover a jar I can't open. I was annoyed and was going to the store to buy new pickles when the neighbor said hi and to let him know if I needed anything while soon-to-be ex is out of town. I said, wait here, and got the jar, which he opened. The next day, I saw him outside and asked him to open another jar. He offered to come open all the jars. I agreed, and he came in and he went to the fridge and opened all the jars except 2, which he couldn't get open. I thanked him profusely and told him I'd bake him some of his favorite cookies later in the week. He laughed and said it was no big deal, and after confirming that I wouldn't be upset if the remaining 2 jars were destroyed in his attempt to open them, he took them home to his garage to open them one way or another. He said that he's heard me screaming about over-tightened jar lids a few times over the years, and he's really pondered if I was crazy or if my husband was really over-tightening the jar lids. He said, this was intentional. It was every jar. And I'm sure he doesn't regularly use hot pepper paste or mango puree or any of your other fancy cooking stuff. Then he held up the 2 jars he couldn't open and said, I don't know why he's doing it, but it wasn't an accident. After he left, I locked the door and sat on my kitchen floor and cried. Then I felt hot and lightheaded. I vomited in the trash can. My chest hurt. It crossed my mind that I might be having a heart attack. I thought about calling an ambulance, but sat back down on my kitchen floor instead, okay with just dying if it was a heart attack. Later, the neighbor came back with the open jar of hot fudge and apologized that he couldn't save the figs. He said he broke the jar trying to get it open. He also apologized for what he said about my husband doing it on purpose. I assured him it was okay. I couldn't sleep that night. Tossed and turned all night. I called out of work. By 10 a.m., I realized that I couldn't stay married anymore, and I made an appointment with a lawyer for the next day. There are literally no other issues, no cheating, no abuse. We had a good sex life. Both have good jobs, nice house, no financial issues. He was absolutely blindsided when he came home and I told him I wanted a divorce. He still won't admit that he tightened the lids on purpose. He suggested we go to marriage counseling, but I refused. There is no point. I just literally can't get past the goddamn jar lids. I still feel a bit crazy about that. I have no idea why he would tighten every jar lid so tightly that I couldn't open it. He has given me no reason. He still won't even admit that he did it on purpose. But the hot pepper paste is in the back of the fridge. I use it only when I make Indian food. It's behind other things. He's never used it. It's nothing you could put in food without cooking it. The pepper paste could not have been an accident. It couldn't. Maybe he put mango puree on his toast or in his oatmeal, but pepper paste couldn't have been an accident. That's what my life comes down to. I'm getting a divorce because the lid to my hot pepper paste was over tight. If it had been every jar except that one I could try, I could have a sliver of doubt. I could do something else, but I just can't get past the hot pepper paste. Most of our friends and families either think I'm crazy or an a-hole. What do you think?
I think that there might be more going on within that relationship than she's willing to disclose or even recognize. You're saying everything is perfect within this relationship for however long it's gone. Do they say how long they've been together?
They said that they've been that it's been a reoccurring cycle for the past 5 years.
Okay. This is something that's happened on occasion. The worst part is they get to the point where it crescendos. They have a fight. They fix it for a little bit. And then he falls back into the old habits. We have this cycle that's been going on for 5 years. And that broke her down. That leads to the overall just having respect for your partner. That's what this is about. It's not about a jar. So she is correct. And the neighbor is correct. Every single jar, every single. Even the ones that he has no business touching, he over tightened. No. In fact, and I don't know what the research shows on whether or not how the tightening affects freshness or not. When we have jars, once I've opened them, if I'm closing them back up, I make sure either one, I don't close them back up, so you tighten them to your specifications.
Yes.
Or if I do it very lightly. I'm like, this OP, I don't really care if it stays fresh. We're going to buy another one anyway. You're supposed to use them. But, who knows? Maybe someone might say, based off the tightening, you'll get X amount more weeks or months off of this thing. My answer to that is I really don't care as long as you have access to it and you want to open it. Because most things I like, I guess, don't come out of jars. You, though, on the other hand, you love pickles and jellies and all sorts of different things. But if you're
all my tea stuff in my little jars because I always reuse jars.
It does have you pondering why exactly he does that on purpose. He makes life harder. I wouldn't want to be around that. I think you said this started off on a no a-holes here thing, but then it was on an am I the a-hole? Are they looking for that answer?
It's still looking for the answer. The post was originally on Am I the A-hole? But I found it on Oh No Consequences. They captured the story and I thought it was so interesting and wanted to go ahead and share it.
Well, based off of everything, she's definitely not the a-hole. You need that foundation of respect for each other. Going out of your way to make something harder for someone in your life, to me anyway, shows that there's some character flaws in there. He says, let's go to counseling. That might have been a good place to start with 5 years ago when you were starting to over tighten cans and she was telling you about them.
And
the first fight. Yeah, that first fight. After that, then yes, let's go get into some counseling. But 5 years later, when your wife's had enough, when someone showed her kindness, real kindness, and she said, oh, wow. I think that's the most common way people find out they can't be with their partner, because someone showed them what true kindness feels like.
I honestly feel like she probably had somewhat of a mental breakdown, how she was describing where she thought she was dying and having a heart attack. That sounds a lot like she was having a mental break because of this. Because when you feel as if, one, that you're crazy the whole time, you're second guessing yourself, you're having these arguments, you don't know if it's all in your head, and then you realize that it's not.
Someone confirmed it on the outside.
Someone confirmed it, and then it has you questioning whether the validity of your relationship should really be. That can really change someone. The consensus on Reddit is our OP's not the a-hole. I found it very interesting. There's another story that's on Reddit, and I will find it. And a commenter actually shared what the premise of it was. So let me go ahead and read that. This Redditor says, "This reminds me of the dude who was poisoning his wife's plants. She couldn't figure out why they were dying, and it was making her nuts. When she caught him, he didn't really have a good answer for why he did it. It's a petty cruelty that generally means all the love and caring and other shit is just a veneer. The jars, the plants, that's what happens when the mask slips a little and the sociopathy comes out." I thought that was very interesting because there are a lot of people who there's something about either getting away with a lie or having some weird type of control that it might seem minor for us looking in, such as the closing of jar lids, might seem like such a minor thing. But when it truly affects how someone thinks, how someone feels, how they're viewing reality and their form of life, and you're making them feel as if they're crazy for these things, for one side, it might provide them some form of control. It might be something that they get off on. But then for the other side, they're just a victim to this. That's awful. I can't imagine being in my own mind and second guessing myself like that.
That's very true.
Well, let's go on to our very last story, and I'm going to bring us to another interesting situation here. Today, I fucked up by calling my cat pretty. I, 26 male, have a cat, Susan, 7 female. She is the absolute love of my life. I've had her for 5 years. We had an immediate bond. She's been with me through thick and thin. I may be biased, but she's also a very pretty cat. She's a brown and orange calico with a white belly and legs, and she has a very pretty face. I compliment her all the time because I love her so much, and I want her to know how much I love her even if she can't understand English. My girlfriend, 25 female, who I will call Liz, and I have been together for about 2 months now. She's not the biggest cat person, and Susan is very shy, so it's taken Susan a bit of time to warm up to Liz. She's not aggressive to Liz or anything. She just hides when Liz comes over, and occasionally she'd peek her head out to see if Liz was gone yet. Lately, Susan's been coming out more when Liz is over, and she's even started going to Liz for pets. Now, whenever Susan comes out, when Liz is around, I do turn my attention to Susan so that she has a positive association with Liz. I'll stop and pat her if she's close enough, or I just say, "Hi, pretty girl," when she peeks her head out. That's not to say I don't give Liz ample attention when we're together. I'm seldom on my phone around Liz. I give her lots of physical affection and compliments when appropriate. Yesterday, I had Liz over and we were watching Family Guy together. We were cuddling and just zoned out on the couch together when Susan came out and climbed in my lap. I started petting her and telling her how much I love her as I usually do. Here's where I fucked up. As I was petting Susan and talking to her, I told her she was the most beautiful girl in the world. Liz got up and went to the bathroom, and I didn't think much of it, even when she was in there for a while. When she came out, she was clearly upset. I asked her what was wrong, and she accused me of being a weirdo who loves his cat more than the actual human woman sitting next to him. I was honestly kind of dumbfounded because 1, we haven't gotten to the I love you stage yet, and 2, it's my cat? And I honestly do love Susan more than Liz, which is something I knew I shouldn't say in the moment, but also I wasn't about to lie or be pressured into saying something I'm not ready to say yet. So I sat there, just staring at Liz for a moment until she huffed, grabbed her keys, and left. After about an hour, I went to text her to see if she made it home alive, only to find she had blocked me. I was upset, but Susan is incredibly empathetic to me, and came running to sit with me. As of now, Liz still hasn't unblocked me, so I guess I'm single again? Good riddance, I guess. The too long don't read. My girlfriend accused me of loving my cat more than her and probably broke up with me. Update: I posted a picture of the most beautiful girl in the world, Susan, on my profile.
All right. Cat tax. We don't get these very often.
No, we don't.
This looks exactly like our cat, Luna.
It looks very close to it. I think ours has a bit more gray, but you can definitely think that there's a family resemblance if you're not careful.
That's a pretty cat. I agree with him. My thing with these type of stories is, especially when you get people who are jealous of animals, or I guess of really anything, and when they get over the top like that, because you're allowed to have jealousy, you're allowed to feel that we're human. But when you take it to an extent like this, where you're saying, clearly you're a weirdo because you love this animal more than me, you've only been dating for 2 months. To believe that you're higher up on a pecking order simply because you're a human is an interesting viewpoint, especially given the facts of this story. That cat's been with him for 5 years, something like that.
Correct.
He clearly loves his cat. You should have respected that. The good thing here is this ex-girlfriend, because I believe it 100% is an ex, she's choosing to just move along with her life. You're not giving her what she wants in a relationship, and she 100% OP would not be able to give you what you're looking for. Her priorities are different. Yours are different. That's okay. You will bump into someone who loves animals or will love your cat just as much as you do. There's a lid for every pot. So I think in actuality, I don't find a-holes here. I think everybody did what was best for them. Don't force a relationship. If they don't like what you like and are perceiving that there's some weird love going on that isn't just you loving your animal, that's just them ruining a relationship over their jealousy. So I don't see any wrong here. Liz went to do what she wanted to do, and you can still hang out with Susan,
the prettiest cat,
aka Luna, because that's our cat.
Well, I actually have an update for you.
Oh.
So let me go ahead and read that now. So this was a very interesting way to have spent my Friday night. As a recap, I called my cat, Susan, the most beautiful girl in the world in front of my girlfriend, Liz. Liz got upset and laughed and blocked me on everything. For those interested, there's a picture of Susan on my page. First, I'd like to say thank you for the comments. I have been kind of beating myself up over the whole incident, but yeah, an adult woman being jealous of a cat is not the kind of energy I need in my life. Also, I just gotta say, I did get a good laugh out of some of the comments, but I can assure you all, I have a perfectly healthy human-cat relationship with Susan. I spent the day just kind of going about life. Around 10, I got a text from none other than Liz herself. She asked if she could come over and talk to me. For a tiny bit of additional backstory and context, I am bisexual and polyamorous. These are both things about myself that I am very upfront about, especially with people I'm romantically interested in. When Liz and I met, we bonded over our appreciation of shitty cartoons. She expressed interest first, and I told her my deal. I knew she was bi since we met, and when we sat down to have the conversation that started our relationship, she told me she was in an open relationship with her last partner and was down to do it again, which, in retrospect, I feel I should have been more cautious about. But what can I say? When you see someone through rose-colored glasses, the red flags just look like flags. Back to tonight, though. I was torn over having Liz over because a big part of me is just done. But on the other hand, she is someone I care about, so I gave her the okay to come by for a talk. When she came in, I could tell she was really upset, so I had her sit down and got her some water. I don't want to share too much of what she told me, but there was more to her jealousy of my cat than I originally thought. She opened up about her ex. He was the one who initiated being open. He found another girl to date. He started spending more time with this other girl, and whenever he was around Liz, he'd either be texting her or talking about how great she was. He ended up leaving Liz for this other girl. Liz also said she wants to keep dating me, but she doesn't want to be polyamorous. I will say, I did feel a bit of guilt hearing this, because had I known, I would have dialed back the verbal love of Susan in front of Liz a little bit. Although I do love Susan more, Susan is indeed a cat. Cats don't understand language the way humans do, so I'm sure words of affirmation are low on her list of love languages. Meanwhile, Liz is a human who can understand language, and words of affirmation mean a lot to her. But the situation with Susan and the conversation with Liz opened my eyes to the fact that we're not compatible. I've tried monogamous relationships a few times, and a majority of them, meaning 2 out of 3, ended because I'm just not wired for that. I have not and will never cheat on anyone I'm dating. I want to make that perfectly clear. So I told Liz that although I care about her and wish her nothing but the best, I can't be what she needs. She cried, but she understood. We had popsicles. I know from experience that having something cold and sweet can be extremely helpful when having big emotions. I did end up telling her about my original post here, and I let her read it. I was scared to do that because I know it didn't paint her in the best light, but she actually laughed and confessed that she felt a little unhinged at being jealous of a cat. I also asked her if I could make an update, and she said it was okay. Our conversation was a lot more in-depth than what I shared. Seriously, if there's a villain in this story, it's her ex-boyfriend, and she asked that I not share a good majority of it. She gathered a few random things she had at my place, and then she left. As for Susan, she spent the entire night nestled between us. Liz was petting her a lot too. I feel this is probably the best way this situation could have ended. I don't know if Liz is going to remain a part of my life in any significant capacity, but I truly hope she does well and is able to heal. I'm going to text her best friend tomorrow and ask them to check on her. The Too Long Don't Read, my, now officially ex, and I had a good conversation. We both got some closure, and I wish her well.
What a fantastic update. OP, good for you. You allowed the moment to pass, and then you guys were able to have a good conversation that was very constructive for both of you, I believe. That's textbook right there. You were able to go over how it was feeling, and then you understood that what she's looking for is not what you're able to offer her.
It's hard to get those talks out. I think a lot of overreactions from individuals is partially due to something that's always happened in the past.
Sure.
It is an experience, and half the time it is a reactional type of response to a past experience. It doesn't necessarily paint people in the best of light when you react that way, but it does end up explaining a lot when it comes to the other side. What you and I would see as normally unhinged if someone were to treat us like that and would expect certain things from us, when you get more of context of what they're going through, it makes you have that aha moment. It's good on our OP that while they might understand the situation and empathize with probably the pain of their now ex, that they remain true to themselves. They didn't try and force themselves into a relationship because they felt bad. That's not doing anybody justice anywhere. I would like to just point that out there, regardless of whether you're monogamous, polyamorous, bisexual, or whatever it is that you are. Being open about your values when it comes to that, to whoever you are a partner with, is so important and so valuable.
Got to be true to yourself. I'm very happy. Again, this is textbook. They got to the source of the problems. They heard each other out. The ex was able to see, yeah, all right, maybe I was a little bit unhinged with my jealousy towards the cat, but these are the reasons. Right? This is why we say, go get into counseling. Get some outside help. Get perspective. Learn. She just learned from this situation. We do carry a lot of the scars from prior experiences and relationships and family and stuff like that. But working through them, learning how to work through them, being given the tools to be able to work through them is vitally important to our mental health going forward in all of the relationships we have.
The real winner, Susan, she got extra pets.
Susan is a pretty cat.
Very pretty.
What was that, our last story?
That was our last story.
Very good one to end this one off with.
I'm very happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, you got to see exactly how these type of things should be hashed out and walked through together. You know, yes, you can have your high emotions. Please get some space from each other. Understand, come back to that fork when you both are ready for it. And yes, at the end, stay true to you, because the outcomes that are supposed to happen will happen. That one's just a good one. What do they say? Wholesome.
What a wholesome story.
And then Susan.
I think Susan's, like I said, the real winner here.
I'm going to have to do a DNA test. That looks too much like Luna. What is she doing when we don't see her?
Who knows? A double life.
Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you've seen the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We regularly post on Mondays and Wednesdays. And on our Patreon, we have Damas After Dark.
Basically the pineapple pizza of Friday.
No, you take those pineapples back away. We would also love to thank all of our patrons for your support. If you don't like pineapples on your pizza, good on you.
Yes, we love and appreciate every single one of you, even if you do like pineapple on your pizza. As always, listeners, we look forward to hearing your opinions in the comments below. What did you think about the stories today? Honestly, all these stories had a lot of sadness connected to them. There's a lot of realizations, I feel, if I'm thinking back on these stories. And the jars, the sister not being able to share her milestones in life.
That's true.
Banning a sibling from family get-togethers. There's a lot here, and it does leave you being thankful for the relationships you do have in your life that you don't
are healthy.
Yes, that you don't have to walk through some of these stories. And I hope that for the people that we have covered today, they got given the advice they need, and sincerely they can move forward in a healthy manner.
I agree.
You managed to pull a sad one together. Like, we got that fifth one, and I was really elated and happy for that. And then I brought it all back with going through each one of these stories in my head. Like, oh yeah, very sad, very sad.
I think sometimes it's good to understand the downs so that, one, if you've never experienced it, you're grateful for what you have. And if you have experienced it, just understanding that everyone in the world operates very differently. Yes, but our experiences can be very close together without even realizing it. You're not truly alone. It's funny how the human experiences are very closely knitted.
Well, for anyone else out there that has any milestones that they want to share, I know we're just internet strangers, but we'd love to hear them.
We would.
I know we've had several people tell us they've graduated or they have a birthday or
they've
whatever.
Gone through exams.
Now, maybe we don't comment a whole lot, but we do appreciate hearing all of you.
And if we haven't said it, congratulations.
Yes, on whatever milestone.
I love hearing good news. I think the world is so full of so many bad things that when you hear the good stuff, it just, for me, it makes it stick out even more.
Yeah. And remember, if you post it, maybe we'll see it on the internet.
Baby wants some pizza.
The baby wants some pizza.
The baby wants some pizza.
I guess we'll go get some pizza.
Yes.